depopulation. Don't be fooled by his persona. I'm sure he was handpicked for the job because he's a fairly mild-mannered character. But farmers all around Australia experienced what Tony Burke was like when he was the Minister for Agriculture and shut down the Australian Wheat Board on behalf of the global grain cartels. All the way leading up to his decision, he'd been mild-mannered, he'd been friendly to the farmers. A lot of farmers would have thought, oh, this guy's, he's probably not going to take such a radical step. Yet, at the end of the day, bang, he did it. And so he has till April or sometime next year to make a final decision on this. Right now, he looks like he's backpedaling, but do not be fooled by that, because this is a long-standing plan. The people who want this are not going to let it come down to the whims of Tony Burke per se. The Australian people have to rise up and smash this thing, because and you would do it if you're concerned about the future of Australia's economy and population as a whole. And one final point on this current process. On Friday this week, October 28th, 2 separate parliamentary inquiries were announced, one by the Senate under Bill Heffernan, one by the House of Representatives under Tony Windsor. Those inquiries will have the appearance of delaying the process. They will report back sometime, in one case next May. The problem is, because there's only 2 chances to stop this plan. One is if Tony Burke, as the Minister, rejects it, or 2, if Parliament passes a deliberate act to disallow it. Either we make Tony Burke reject it, or if you wait till after next June, Parliament can pass whatever act they like to disallow it. It will not pass because the Greens will have control of the Senate in the federal Parliament, and no bill to disallow this plan will get through the Parliament with the Greens in control. So we have a short time to kill this plan, for the future of Australia. So just with that, I urge everyone to start blasting Tony Burke as the Minister for Depopulation, and also start blasting all these politicians who are now backpedaling and trying to suck up to you for your support and pretend they didn't support the Water Act. Blast them to death and demand that they, quick, smart, don't wait for any inquiry, pass a bill to disallow this. So I'll leave that at that. Obviously, this is a very dramatic picture. Stay tuned for more updates. Finally, though, the second point I want to discuss is the current bank debate. As you've all been hearing probably in the news, Joe Hockey seemingly stumbled in where angels fear to tread this week and reacted to the banks and their claims or their insistence that they should be able to raise interest rates separate from the Reserve Bank. Now, I discussed this briefly last week, how this is a Clayton's debate, because what it actually tends to do is it makes the banks out to be all powerful and disguise how actually bankrupt they are. But what's more interesting this week is the sub-theme that's emerged in the Parliament around it. Joe Hockey has been attacked by the Labor Party. Apparently he's been attacked by his own side, and he's been attacked by the banks. And famously, the ANZ Bank's Mike Smith accused him of taking economics lessons from Hugo Chavez. But Julia Gillard went after Hockey and Tony Abbott, and she called what they were doing with this bank issue economic Hansonism. And then she said something very interesting. She accused them of running away from what she called the post-1983 consensus on economic reform, quote unquote. What does she mean by that? What she's admitting to is what we've always said. From 1983 onwards, under Hawke and Keating, the Labor Party betrayed its traditions, betrayed its traditional fight for economic sovereignty and for a financial system to serve the people, and went over to the side of the City of London financial interests and to the private banks, and rammed through all the economic reforms that have destroyed Australia and reduced us to a colonial quarry, with the full complicity of the opposition. John Howard, all through the 80s, totally supported every reform that Hawke and Keating implemented. when Howard took over, the Labor Party totally supported all the national competition reforms that were the continuation of that reform process, and now Gillard is demanding that Abbott and Hockey toe the line again. So this is an insight into how real power is wielded in Australia. I don't know enough about Hockey to know whether he's genuine. I suspect he's not, because from communications he's had with us about the economic system, he's either covering for the banks or he's stupid, and we've put out material about that in the past. You can see it on our website. But what he's getting into is a very important subject. For example, I'll just give you one example of the reaction. Mike Smith, the chairman of the boss of the ANZ Bank, defended himself this week by saying you can't bang on about banks' profits because they're deceptive. What you've got to look at is not the profit figure, the gross profit figure, but what they call the returns on equity, which is the return on shareholders' funds invested, basically. And he compared the bank's return on equity to the big mining companies. For example, BHP Billiton's 2010 return on equity was 28%. Rio Tinto's was 29%. And compared to that, the big four banks was only 16%. Boo-hoo-hoo. I should point out, there is nothing in the real world of actual productive activity that generates those kinds of returns. This is pure looting figures, which unfortunately we've become used to. And you can compare it to other sectors of the economy. For example, healthcare, 14.4% is the average return for private healthcare funds on equity. Supermarkets, Coles and Woolies, 13%. Telecommunications, 26%. For 20 years, the banks have averaged around 15% return on equity. Just before the financial crisis, it got up to 20%. So this is gouging figures that they're trying to defend. But the issue is not even so much its profits, it's about the power to make those profits and about the power to put the financial system first, which is what they are determined to defend. And so what happened this week? Craig Emerson blurted out the truth and he did it in a way to try and, I suspect, spook Hockey into getting back in line. Because he said, what Hockey is sounding like is Lyndon LaRouche and the Citizens Electoral Council. You can listen to audio recordings of his radio interview where he says that on the internet. He's trying to use LaRouche as a warning to Hockey, get back in line, don't go down this path, or the City of London may think that you are going to get you serious like Lyndon LaRouche is, because as everyone knows, only LaRouche and the CEC are serious when it comes down to actually taking on the banks in Australia. Not taking them on for the hell of it, taking them on in the way the old Labor Party did, for the common good. Bringing the financial system in Australia into line in a way that its functionality serves the interests of the people first and foremost, not the private profits or power of a globalised City of London directed banking system. So for the sake of time, that's all I'll say about that. Read our press release on this. It's bound probably to get more interesting, so we'll see how that unfolds. So stay tuned for more developments on that as well. But that's where I'll leave it. Thanks for watching the weekly update.